All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Journey on the Podcast. I am Ben Sanguinetti, and with me is my good friend, Nate Jones. And we have a very, very, very special guest today. This is the wonderful Brenda Rodriguez, who has attained a master's degree in counseling and psychology at Santa Clara University in 2000, a certified hypnotherapist since 2001, and taught over 500 hours of a 9-month hypnotherapy program for many years. She is also an energy psychology intuitive, that is so fun to say, works in vibrational healing, and she sees herself as a visionary and a shamanic practitioner all the way since 2008. Thank you so much for being with us, Brenda, today. And as always, we are here to serve the world through our own experiences and bring on amazing guests like Brenda. And with that being said, let's jump into it here and do a little check-in, Nate, and get things going.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for being here, Brenda. It's just always cool to see your face and just, to have you in the whatever kind of energetic facility that we're in. Okay, so if you're able to, if you want to, go ahead and close the eyes. And if you can't close the eyes or you don't want to close the eyes, then no big deal. We're just going to take a few moments and become present just by following our breath. And so you can breathe in whatever way feels good for you. You can just follow the breath as it naturally comes and goes, or you can kind of join with the breath. And if you do decide to join with the breath, maybe think of it kind of like as a partnership. Sort of like a little dance. And then just finding, a nice rhythm in that dance. And every inhale, just creating a little bit more harmony between the body and the mind. And just acknowledging exactly how you are in this moment. Exactly how the body feels. Exactly whatever emotions are residing inside of the body. And whatever kind of mental state that you feel yourself to be in currently, acknowledging it and just inviting all of it to be here exactly as you are. All right, great. Try 2 more breaths. Great, and then if the eyes are closed, right, if you want to, just go ahead and slowly begin to open them. And then just maintaining, some awareness of your body, of the internal state of yourself. You could do that throughout the whole episode if you'd like to. It's always fun, always makes things a little bit more interesting and fresh that way. Okay, cool. So here we are with our very first guest on the show, Brenda Rodriguez, and I would just like to hear your voice. So whatever you want to say right now.
I am just so grateful to be here and to see both of you and to know that we've been on such a wonderful, loving journey together. And I'm sure you two are going to talk a little bit about how you know me, but just to see you doing this work and to being connected to it, it's very, really hard to be sitting in my seat right now without getting up and dancing and jumping. I am so, so excited inside. So thank you for asking me to be here. I'm just so thrilled.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
please dance if you want to dance.
I might.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you. And I was thinking about it. It's so perfect that you're our first guest because I was looking back at it's been over 5 years since we first met. And looking back at that first time that we met of where I was and to where I am now, you know, I'm very grateful for you because that person would not be doing a podcast today. So it's just very amazing and very beautiful. And a little background, I've been working with Brenda for over 5 years. She's become a family friend through helping my wife, helping my sister, and that's kind of how we got introduced. Of hey, just people in my family saying, hey, you need to go check out this amazing person and go talk with her. And then from there, after I started my friendship with Nate, it got to a point of, hey, you need to go check out this amazing person, and we've been on this journey since. So Nate, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I think when you first told me about Brenda, it was probably like a year and a half ago about, and I forgot even what you said about her, why you told me to go see her, but I was like, yeah, for sure, because I just trusted you, and I was really interested in just all that you were saying. I think that was maybe the the first time that we met, outside of our workplace, and we were talking
Yeah.
about just like the whole spiritual life. We're like, what, you're doing this? What? This is crazy. So I just went and saw Brenda right away. And like, it was my first in-person session with anybody like Brenda. It was one of my first experiences actually, with like any kind of like, they could say, spiritual counseling. And I just had like a really good feeling the whole time and right away. And then I remember at the end of the session that Brenda told me about this 5 month shamanic journeying course that she was going to start. She handed me a flyer. She didn't even need to hand me the flyer. I already made up my mind that I was going to do it right when she mentioned it. I was like, yeah, for sure, I'll do it. and then Ben and I worked with Brenda in a group, and we just took this like amazing adventure into shamanic journeying which we'll probably talk about in this episode and later on, on a later episode in the podcast. But yeah, it's just been such an adventure with Brenda. And there's never a dull moment, and I can always rely on her to be there and to offer me some other perspective that really helps to open my mind and remember that I can open my heart even wider, even when I think that I can't. So, yeah, I'm very grateful for you too, Brenda.
Yes, beautifully said. Beautifully said. And I think that's perfect of, we keep talking about how amazing you are and we want to hear your story. And so, you know, one of our first questions to you is, what in life brought you to start really living and working with spirit? How did that begin? And, how was that then to where you are now?
Mm, Great, great. Well, thank you so much for all those accolades. I don't know if I'm going to get my head through the door. It's so big right now, but thank which really, the question is, and the introductions and all of that is just really wonderfully put, so that it kind of leads me into the fact that, will, you know, think back, and even during the check-in, when we were just sitting quietly breathing, I found myself getting a little bit anxious and nervous, and I tapped into that, and I realized that I was tapping into that very shy little girl, that very introverted little girl that didn't say very much at all. And I mean, people could like not even notice me in the room for years. I could just like go into the corner somewhere. But that was that there was some advantages to that. And then I had to remember that that part of me, that very, very shy, quiet, introverted part of me, had a huge advantage in my life because I was able to be the observer. I was able to watch. I was able to connect and look at my world without getting myself lost in it through my singing and my dancing and my outgoingness. I was to kind of sit back and watch things, and I think that gave me a huge introspection of what I needed to do this work now. So it was really, and so when I realized that when we were sitting here breathing, and I said, "Wow, Spirit, you've had my back, so I'm ready. I am ready." And so that's kind of like my experience as a very, very young person. I grew up in a very, very poor situation, a lot of poverty. I had poverty consciousness for most of my life, lack of this and lack of that, and not enough of this and not enough of that until I eventually woke up. And I didn't wake up by myself. I mean, I woke up moving on a path with others. And I am so grateful for those people in my life that were able to walk that path with me and are walking the path with me now. So as you're listening, um, you want to kind of look around and see, who's walking with you, because that's, the trueness of walking the divine path. And I think that's where I am now. I'm walking a divine path, which means learning how to become peaceable and whole again. And I feel that most of my life I have been eclectically collecting parts of myself again into wholeness. And so, I look back and think of all the courses I've taken and all the things I've learned, and craniosacral, and all kinds of theta healing, and all of these other little things that I learned, and I sat in classrooms and learn and even taught and did with clients, but they were just little steps. They were just tools along the way. And that wasn't really who I was, but it was a part of who I was becoming. And so, that being said, wherever we are, it's not too little a step, because it's that collective collecting of all the parts of us who we are. And so, yeah, what got me into what I'm doing now is really, um, I think purposefulness. I knew from a very young age that I either didn't belong here or something was terribly wrong going on, and so I felt like I needed to sort of find out, like, what was my purpose. And so, I spent a good fraction of my life being a dental hygienist, and
Oh, wow.
30 plus years. Yeah. And when I went back, for my my undergraduate and graduate studies, I thought I was going to work with special needs children in the dental field. And then I found out that, that was all volunteer stuff, because by the time they cut all the pieces of the pie, there was no time left, or no money left, or energy left for the dental needs of the special needs children. So I thought, this isn't going to help support my family and myself. So I, having to learn through child development degree, that I had to take all of these psychology classes. And I thought, wow, I love psychology. Maybe I can, if I can't do dental hygiene, because that was really why I went back to school. If I couldn't do dental hygiene, all my colleagues were falling off the wayside. They were getting carpal tunnel and bad backs. I thought, well, if I can't do dental hygiene, what am I going to do? So I thought, I can use my brain, and I can sit in a chair, not even have to wiggle my toes, and use my brain. So I went into psych. I studied psych, and that was just a huge step in another direction. And so what I did was really practice dental hygiene and counseling psychology for 15 years, conclude, together, until the past 3 4 years. I decided, I need to put all of my efforts now into this other work, because spirit was calling me there. And but what I want to say about dental hygiene, even though it's not a hat that I wear, um, it taught me how to sit and be with somebody. It taught me to connect to their energy because their heads were right by my heart, when I laid them down. And it taught me to have a reverence of that energy and to love the the being that was in front of me as I was doing my skill and to pray quietly. I had 8 hours of prayer most of the time. I loved my job. I wasn't one of those hygienists that talked a lot, and that you might find kind of surprising because once spirit grabs me, the words start coming out, and that's why I record all my client sessions because they just can't catch up with me because that's spirit. But I was taught with spirit to be quiet first and to listen and to be with that energy, and that taught me a lot about how to connect to people's energy, and that's what I do as well in my work now. So it was a training. It was a 30-year training. And so, we follow our path and it's all purposeful. Every single thing we do is purposeful, no matter where we are. So, like if you're sitting in a job or doing something that you really say, why am I doing this? I really don't like it anymore. Just look at the purposefulness of it, because you'll know when you're ready to step forward into something else because spirit is preparing you all the time, all the time. And so, at that point, you know, focused a lot of my energy and started getting, and I think that, if we pay attention, really pay attention, we will know if we're on track by our feedback, by our results. If we're not getting good feedback or good results, we need to question how we're doing it. Not that we're doing something wrong, but maybe we need to tweak it a little bit. Maybe we need to have a little bit more, I don't know, ritual in our life or a little bit more, a place where we have a little bit more discipline, a little bit more focus. My sense of it is really that, we see exactly where we're looking. What we're looking at, we see. And we find what we're searching for. So, you see all the political stuff going on right now, and how you see it is your experience. And you can say, this is a circus. I was going to say something else, but this is a circus, and look at it that way. Or you could say, hey, what's the purposefulness here? What is this species learning on how to become, how to grow out of? And who to become, now. And what if we're looking at it that way, we are going to start finding all of what we're being led to, the peace, the unity, the love, the connection, the community that has come up from all of this. So I really say, what am I looking at and what am I searching for? Because that's what I'm going to find and that's what I'm going to see. So, um, gosh, I don't know if I answered your question, but
Mhm.
that's what spirit does. It just kind of like throws me all over the place. I went into psychology. I took classes. I studied. I was not a good student because when you're poor, you don't even have enough food to eat. So you go to school, you can't concentrate. I was nutritionally deprived. My brain probably was, and I couldn't, I felt, I daydreamed most of the time and I couldn't wait to get out to the play yard and, start, chasing the boys and doing all of the fun stuff. Learning was not my ticket to happiness. And then as I started to understand more of my purposefulness and who I was, um, I couldn't get enough education. I just kept like devouring any class. I was like a classroom junkie. I was just like, what course? Yes, absolutely. My husband, and we've been married for 46 years, and he just, yeah, sure, I'll be here. You know where I'm at. Go do what you need to do. He's been such a wonderful, wonderful um, leader in my life to just know that, you know, he kind of looked at me and said, I'm glad you're doing it and I don't have to. So I see him as the way of like, because I never forced him to do things that I did. It was not that contract with us. It wasn't like, oh, I got this class, you got to just take it with me. It was like, he was watching his baseball games and his football games and taking care of the family and doing all of that stuff while I was in school and taking classes. And, you know, I, I think internally he was, I'm glad I don't have to do that. You know, So I see him as like a quiet Buddha, that's already evolved and done all of these lifetimes, and so it's like, he's off duty this lifetime. He gets to be the man. He gets to be the father, the dad, the husband. Um, so yeah, I couldn't have done all that I do without him. I respect his participation in my life very, very much, and putting me on that pedestal and reminding me, hey, you you can do anything you put your mind to. You've got a purpose here. And I needed that kind of reminding sometimes because it wasn't easy. So, I honor him right now. Um, so that path kind of brought me, more and more classes, and I started learning about energy, and spirit was actually teaching me. I was just sitting in a classroom somewhere, but spirit was the one that was teaching me when I would go home, and spirit would show me real life situations, and I would try to put that puzzle together because it doesn't help when you're learning something and then you go into out of the classroom or out of that workshop or that webinar or whatever, and then you just like, it's like, when you go to church, and then you just like, you do the holy water thing or whatever, and then you leave the building and you forget that you've got a soul, you've got a heart, that you've been connected to your God. So spirit taught me how to do that. Maybe when I was a very little child learning how to observe, I remembered to like put those puzzle pieces together and do life completely, not just listen and learn, but talk and do, you know. So spirit was teaching me about energy and how that felt and what that meant, uh, and all of a sudden, somewhere along the way, in my counseling practice, I started realizing something was more than you know, just counseling. And so I would start to get clients that would say, well, Brenda, what did you say there? And I had no idea what I said. And I'd have to sit really, really quiet. And then it would just come to me. And how I knew that I would come from word the first time, that I had no recollection, because I always taped my sessions when I worked with young children. I learned that it was good to have your sessions taped. And people wanted to hear, their sessions again sometimes. So I would play it back later on and go, wow, I had no idea what I was saying, but I was saying it again. So it must have been coming through me. And then I realized, wow, there's something going on here. So back then, you say, oh, I guess I was channeling. You didn't say that out too loud, because people would say, okay, well, I've got to go now. You know, it scared them. Now it's like, oh yeah, we know what channeling is. All of these things, it felt like I was sort of like a step before everyone was like talking about it. I was like doing chakra work and energy balancing and all kinds of stuff. And people go, chakra? What's a chakra? No, I don't have to explain that anymore for most part. So spirit was working with me, and then spirit would come in later on, and because when you learn something, then there's a gift. There's a lesson, and then once you learn that lesson, there's a gift. And so I knew that there was something else coming in, because then my clients would say, when you said that, Brenda, you said it exactly like, my uncle or my aunt or my sister would say that. And you actually even looked a little bit like them, and they've passed. And I thought, okay, something else is happening here. And I would start to know that I would be bringing in messages from the other side of the veil, because my body would start to rock a little bit. And I thought it was just, me doing me, but then I realized it was spirit doing me. So that started happening. And all of these things just, nothing I learned from Santa Clara University, by the way. It was all taught afterwards, right? But I needed to have the foundation. I needed to have the foundation so I could step out into the world and do what I knew what to do then. And then spirit just grows you. So I'm still learning. I'm still evolving, and shamanic practices have been, a great deal of my life for over a decade. And I am finding that what I was learning back then is just so, I mean, now everybody wants to take a shaman class because shamanic work is so important right now. We're learning how to get back to our full selves and rid the energies that have invaded our consciousness and send it to its proper places. And that's what shamanic work does. It journeys into this place of, through the darkness we find light. So in our inner mind, that place that we trust spirit completely when spirit shows up. And once we do that, there are no answers that cannot be answered. And you know that, Nate and Ben, you've had really, really wonderful experiences. And, I'm so honored that you as men are stepping into that because the world needs it. Right now, I am very, very much connected and to several things. The Christ consciousness movement, but also which is compassion and love, but also the movement of the divine mother, the divine feminine. And that's rising up in this world because it's got to come back into consciousness. We need to be in our divine selves as women. Um, and when I say women, it's not just a gender thing, but as a woman, that's where I'm coming from. But we both have divine feminine and divine masculine in us. And so wherever we've been leading more masculine or more feminine, that's been sort of pushing us, into the world. But now we need to bring in the divine part. And so my awareness is that I cannot be divine consciousness or divine feminine without that divine masculine. That's what was lacking eons ago. Eons ago, when women did rule this world, and men said, you know, whatever you want, and then men rose up because we weren't acknowledging their divineness. There's something wrong there. And so, then we were burned to the stake, and, we suffered. We suffered to step back. We needed to step back and let the masculine rule and conquer and all of that, which was important because we needed to grow that way. We needed to evolve. We needed to do things. We just couldn't go around just sitting around loving each other and doing nothing. We needed to, go into the industrial age. We needed to create and conquer and make. And that's the male energy. But the male forgot its divineness. And now we are in a wonderful time where we can be divine, feminine, and masculine within us and within the world, and honor however we show up mostly. If we mostly show up as male energy or female energy, we can merge that divineness, and that's where we're headed. And I'm so that's one of the reasons why I'm so tickled to be on your program, because you are both collectively bringing in that divine, you know, masculine, and showing up as divine masculine. And that's what the world needs to see, not just us
Yeah,
women, but men too. So,
right.
yeah, I'll
You
pause
know,
here and let you feed into all.
yeah, yeah, because I wrote down so many things there, and this is why we could literally talk for hours and hours. And one thing that the last thing that you'll say right there, that's a big reason why me and Nate started doing this, is because we would have these conversations and we would say, you know, people need to hear this. People are not hearing this enough, and it's a big reason why we jumped into it with that type of energy. And I want to pause and go back to just a couple things there, because I think it's important to the audience to understand, your definition of what spirit means to you, because we've talked about this, and I would definitely encourage everyone to go back to the episode of what your beliefs are. I forget the number, but we talk about beliefs, and that everyone has a different belief, and that's okay. And I think it's really important to understand and hear your definition of what spirit means to you, and what that energy means to you.
Yeah, that's great. Sometimes that word just comes out because, spirit, there's no separation there. So it's kind of hard. Spirit to me is everything. it's like there's no one particular energy or entity that I say is spirit. I don't go outside of me. Spirit is also who I am and how I show up. There's like, it's all connected. And I think we're moving away from, the idea that there is just one thing that we need to make a statue out of or something, that it's everything. Because when I spirit started to work through me, um we're seeing people that, because I have a little new client form that I have and I ask about, what is your worldview, what is your spiritual perspective. I don't want to like interfere with anyone else's beliefs. um, so that's where I came up with, people were accepting the word spirit only because I would be seeing atheists that didn't believe. They say, I don't believe in God. I say, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's not what
Yeah.
spirit is here. Spirit is anything greater than ourselves, within ourselves. And so, what do you think is greater than you? And they would say, well, the stars and the sky and the universe and big redwoods trees and nature. And I go, well, that's what spirit is right here in this room right now for you. And that's what's speaking for you. And so it's individual. And that's, where I come from when I say the word spirit. It's eclectic like I am.
Yeah. I love that, and it makes it so much more simple. Like that's what we mean by that. We're here to share experiences, and this is fun. Like life is fun. Everything around us is connected, and that's a beautiful definition. So I'm glad that I asked that. One thing that I want to jump into, because I know Nate will like talking about this too, is going back to your story. I think everyone can relate to the being shy. That's something that me and Nate have talked about a lot on this, is that, we would let our, learning difficulties and different things that we think are such a big deal hold us back. And, I was really shy growing up, but it's funny. I was really shy, but you get me with a group of friends that I like, and you got me in the right atmosphere, and I was just chatterbox all the time. And I'm still like that. It does take me a little bit to loosen up. So, I just wanted to, speak to the audience of the fact that, I think Brenda's story is really unique, that, part of being shy and part of being on the journey that you're on is part of your purpose. And it brings you to a place that, those people that are, really more successful than you're young, they're getting A's and B's in school, and they're doing everything perfect, and they're the, if I don't even know if they do prom king and queen anymore and all that going on, but they get to a point where they don't know what their purpose is. And then you will get to a point where you're, moving right past them. And I think that's really important to talk about, of how, we always think it's going to be this big grand thing. My life needs to be this big grand wonderful thing. And the simplest lives, which is exactly what your life is the most beautiful and purposeful thing that you can possibly imagine. So with that being said, I'm going to chime over to Nate a little bit and let him speak on a few things that jumped out to him.
Yes, I love this topic, being shy. Um, also what you said there, about the simple lives they've been really powerful. And if you just look at like a prophet, like we'll just take like that's really easy ones, Jesus and Buddha, and you could say they were extraordinary beings, right? And I love that word, because if you break it up, it's extraordinary, incredibly ordinary. I mean, they didn't own anything. They maybe didn't even have shoes. They just had like the one piece of cloth that went over their body, and that made them extraordinary. And the fact that they were so simple and there was like nothing else really there than like what they truly are, which is like what Brenda was saying, it's not one specific thing that spirit is, because it's only one thing, which means all. So it's in everything. And if we can just like, allow that to shine through us, then like Brenda says, you can channel it, or just kind of let it I can't think of the word, like a flowery has a fragrance that come from it. It just kind of like leaves yourself. And there's no effort in it, but it takes a lot of surrender, which is something that Brenda has really, really brought into my awareness a lot too. But then going back to being shy really quick, because I think that like a lot of people who end up, doing things that are different in their life, that they experience being shy, at like a young age maybe. And me for one, and I know my brother, has dealt with this too, is like the being shy, that we let that really get us down, and we thought there was something wrong with us, because it's like, in society, it's like so looked up upon to like to be the center of attention, always have that perfect thing to say, right? I mean, if you grew up like watching movies or television, it's like they always have the perfect thing to say. You have to be romantic and like have the perfect thing to say at the perfect time. And if there's that silence, then it's like, oh my God, that's the worst thing ever. You can't have that awkward silence. And that's kind of like going back to the feminine, which is receptive. And like, allowing things to come to you and, being that observer and watcher. And what Brenda was saying, to learn. And like, if you're quiet, then you're probably learning a lot more, right? You're seeing a lot more. You're listening to a lot more. I mean, like, not all the time. I'm not saying this is like all the time for everyone. But it's like, what are you learning here? And Brenda was just speaking about her story in such a beautiful way, as like that there was a job that she wasn't necessarily like gung-ho about, but she was like able to see that it was serving, some purpose for her. And she took what was coming to her, and she did the best that she could with what she had. And then just in that like willing to engage with it, that she was able to be moved into what she's doing now, which is like this incredible service to the world. And I'm sure that she feels like she's living like either her purpose, or she's really damn close to it, or she's moving right into it. But yeah, so just that trust and willingness to engage with life, is something that I'm really getting from you too.
Yeah, because and that's the thing too about being shy, is that the person that's shy is not scared to go inside. They are for a period of time, but eventually, being quiet, being alone, they're more comfortable with it. And then that helps them come out of their shell later on, and they always use there's always one of my favorite sayings is the quietest person in the room is actually the smartest person in the room. And I completely believe in that, because they are the ones observing everything. And they're the ones that, the conversation's going on and they're quiet the whole time, and then the person's going to say, hey, what do you think about it? And then they have this divine, amazing thing that you think would never come out of them, because they've observed everything. And I think that, that goes back to, you're living your purpose. And the other thing, we get to this point that when we're, like Nate's saying, it makes us not feel good. We feel bad about ourselves. And then, just like Brenda was saying, we don't belong here. We feel like we don't belong here. And that's just so far from the truth. And the message that Brenda's saying and the message that we're all saying right there, that's one thing that I really want to just say to everyone is, you do belong here. You do have a purpose. And it may be taking you a little bit longer to figure it out, but you just have to stay connected with it. And I think that's a beautiful message, just to keep talking about right there. So I definitely wanted to say that. I think this is definitely a time too that we can continue to talk about. I love what you've said. We've had some private conversations about that divine feminine coming in more, and harnessing that divine masculine. And I think that's something that, honestly, it's really not talked about enough. And I've talked about this with friends and close ones of, I truly believe that to most men, and not everyone, but we always get to this point that we're to the average male, the divine feminine becomes scary, and that's why we don't like to bring it in. And we think that it's not, masculine enough, or and it becomes scary and awkward, because honestly, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And my point to that is, anyone that's been blessed enough to have a good mother, okay, most of the time, we're going about life and we don't care about so and so, we don't care about so and so, but you always really care about what your mom has to say, and you never really want to let your mom down. And that's that divine feminine energy. And there is a balance, there really is a good balance that I think we're really bringing into this world more and more and more, and having an understanding that being in your power and saying the things that you're going to say, and doing everything, that is the masculine, but the feminine is that balance and going back to that place within. So I just wanted to continue to open it up to your thoughts on what I'm saying with that to both of you. And I think that's something too that it's just really not, it's starting to be talked about a lot more. I think I completely agree with you that we're at the place that we're at in this world because it is a conversation that, this is something that isn't on the average podcast, but it is today because of what the world circumstances are becoming. So I'll pause with that and give it back to either of you.
Yeah, I just love where this conversation is going, and from both of you, it's just such a wonderful thing to be realizing how much evolution has taken place to our growth, our personal growth, and understanding that no matter where our beginnings are, and no matter what where our journey is right now, that there is purposefulness in it. It's like that place where I was a dental hygienist. That was super super important for me at that time. It was sometimes painfully so because it takes a lot of mental and physical energy to do that work. But I loved it. I used to teach it, at a junior high school. Um, I mean, junior college, and I taught that profession for many, many years. So I put all my heart and my soul into it, and that's what I'm really saying is like it may not be your high in the pie sky. I want to do something huge and important in this world, and we get so infatuated with stardom. We got to be all stars. And we are all stars if we really do what we do with the passion that and I want to say the job that we call our job at the time. What our real job is evolution, growth, personal growth. So it's not really just that we have a job. That's just the vehicle that is really steering us in the big job. The big job is becoming who we are. So we can put that hat on or this hat on or wear three hats at the same time, but those aren't the main job. The main job is who am I developing into? And that's going to lead me down somewhere. And so I'm so grateful that 30-year career really taught me my real job was to be who I am now. And so setting that as a priority of not like, am I doing what I want to be doing? Is this serving me and joy and happiness? Yes. If you see that it's purposeful right now. Right now, this is where I need to be. And so that being said, the I want to add a little bit more to that place where we acknowledge the quiet self, the quiet self that listens, because there's something powerful to that. We know what happens when we're not able to listen. We have we have world leaders that don't listen. They want to just talk. And it's really important to have that introverted self listen. And the example that I wanted to just say about that is, I've had clients come in for their very first session with me, sit down, hand me their client form. And before I can even look at their name or their occupation or any of that kind of thing, they're sobbing. They're pulling out the tissue. They're crying. They can't get a word. They're just crying. They're just letting out all of this energy. And I find that sometimes those people are the ones that haven't given themselves a chance to go inside. And so, of course, spirit being in the room just says, it's time, let it all out. And energy is energy. And so now they're letting out all that energy that they've been bottled up inside because they've been busy doing that, seeing, talking, doing, having all of this in there, even, and it doesn't have to be outward, it can be mental. There's a lot of mental energy going on. And finally, that all relaxes and they forget that they have to be that way. And it just comes out, and that leaves room. That leaves room to listen. They could not hear a word Spirit needed to say at any time during that session until they let out all this energy. So I cry away. If you're going to take half of the session just crying, this is useful because people don't give themselves a time to really feel, and that's where I think being in, and not, I don't want to say even introvert because that's not what it's about. It's just being, connected to an inner place and really feeling. And my sense is that what it does is it teaches us really about emotion. And I think that my sense of it is that I've been working with emotion for many, many years, and that's all energetic because emotion is energy in motion. And so when that energy doesn't have motion, it gets stuck and we get ill. And so my job has been to just let Spirit guide me how to move that energy, and how it moves is emotionally. And so emotion is like the crux of everything. It's the everything we put, it's the pedestal that we put everything, and we forget that it's a really important aspect of who we are. That emotional self drives all of our situations, life situations, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, or dysfunction. That emotional platform is a huge platform that we ignore because we've been taught to ignore that. And now, when we honor those emotions, when we release those emotions that are built up, we receive those emotions that we're ready to receive, something powerful happens within us. It's an internal dialogue that our cells are listening to all the time. And if you want to know more about that, Bruce Lipton is Biology of Belief, talks really at extent about how our cells are little, you know, energetic sort of beings that are listening. Oh, I'm stupid. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, that makes me sick. Oh, you're a pain in my ass. Whatever those messages are listening to, we start to, all I can say is yes, yes, yes. They're little servants, they're little beings. And they work through the emotion in our thoughts. So emotion, cognitively, this is, the brain is important, but it's not just the one thinker of the body. The heart is also a thinker of the body. So when we let our cognitive thoughts, words come into a beautiful connection with our other brain, our heart, our feelings, our emotions, when they connect in a way that is conducive to our health, we're healthy. And when there's a discord, because the heart wants to love, it wants to feel. And when we say, no, you can't feel, this is bad, whatever, we get discord. And that's where the body starts to break down. So we have to learn how to like connect the two, let them shake hands together. And it's just a 17-inch journey to making wellness, it's this beautiful place of wellness. So energy is very, very important. Now, how can we prescribe to that train or get on that train? Simple, very simple things. I love working with any kind of vibrational aspect. You can connect with the emotions when they're stuck, anything that has anything to do with vibration, color, smell, light, sound. I bring my sound bowls. I do my smudging. I use my essential oils. I have a vibroacoustic mat. Anything that has vibration to it will loosen up, that stuck vibration and move it forward. I think that's going to be our new medicine, and is becoming our new medicine now. But also cognitively, we need to get that into gear as well. And so you can make little lists of things and cut them into strips, uh, and pull a strip every day and connect to that thought every day. Like, um, you know, um, I am productive around my house, and just connect to that thought and or I am motivated to achieve my goals, and just connect to that thought all day long. Or I, I am able to show um, my independence in who I am. If you're feeling beaten down, or not enoughness, or I will meditate with everything that I do today. You can make those little strips, make those little statements, pull one out every day, and put it in your pocket, and really, really focus on that. Because remember, what we look at, we see, and what we really, really remember is that experience, and it becomes part of our um, you know daily life, weekly life, our life. So we develop that. And so nothing is too small if we can really take all that extraneous talk and clutter out of our brain, and really just say, this is what I'm going to focus on today. I'm going to focus on on being motivated at my work today. I'm going to really be concentrated in being healthier and happier and more successful today in everything that I do. Wow. And now you're paying attention to your life. And that's working your emotions. That's working, and you're actually healing a lot of stuff just by getting the mind and the heart in gear together. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about that.
Yeah. Nate, you had something to say there?
Yeah, th- I just love that you're talking about emotions, um, because so I think that that is FYI to the audience. The divine feminine and divine masculine, it's still a little bit confusing to me, and there's so many ways to look at it. So if you're in that boat, don't worry about it. But to me, I feel like emotions, are the feminine, because you're saying, with every cell in the body, it's receptive. It says yes to whatever thought you put in there. And a thought you could say is the divine masculine, which most of the time, most of the world is having thoughts, just happen to them, and they're doing it unconsciously. But, if you start to work with your thoughts deliberately, and you choose the thoughts, I mean, just the way Brenda was saying with those affirmations, and you say things that you actually want, that the body will listen to that, right? And they'll respond. It won't happen like that, but I mean, it'll start to influence, things. And we can't choose, everything that comes to us in life. That's not up to us. And with emotions, I kind of think about it like a river, like a huge, powerful river. I mean, it's kind of scary, right? And it's easy to sit on the side of the river and just be like, no way am I getting in there, and just be scared to death. Or be in the river and using all of your energy to try and swim against the river, and it's never going to work. Or you can go with the river, right? Just go into your emotions, feel it, and then sometimes the river is calm, it's very peaceful. Sometimes it's like the rapids, and that could be fun if you choose to let it be fun. Sometimes it's a waterfall and everything falls apart and you're just bawling your eyes out, you lost it, whatever that means to you. But then it collects and it settles down, and then it's there again. So it really depends on, again, our willingness to engage in it. So what I was kind of thinking about as you were talking about your thoughts, as you mentioned poverty consciousness earlier in the show, and this is something that you brought to my attention, and this is just an internal state. So Brenda, that said that she grew up with not much money or not much the material stuff, and I grew up in a wealthy family. I had a very comfortable home. I had always had food. I always had new clothes and stuff, but I was living in huge poverty consciousness for a lot of my life. And I talked about it on the show earlier, but Brenda brought something to my attention that was just really, really mind opening. And I was talking to her one day, and she asked me, she's like, what's the biggest challenge in your life right now? And I told her that my speech. I was like, I don't speak fluently. And she looked at me and she was like, "Is that what you think about yourself?" And I was like, "Oh my God, that is what I think about myself." And so that was one of the biggest ways that I was experiencing the poverty consciousness in my life. And it's really just a mindset at the end of the day. And so, either of you, if you want to talk about like your experience with poverty consciousness and how you became aware of it and how you started to kind of like, break free of it, would be really interesting to hear.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so for me too, going back to what we're talking about with the divine feminine, divine masculine is, I guess the thing, Nate, I love how you're talking about, the river and going with the flow, right? And the truth is nobody wants to get wet, right? And I think too, we look at it like everything else. We look at it in this grand thing, and as somebody too who's obviously I'm in my divine masculine a little bit more, and with that being said, if I haven't learned the things about the divine feminine, I wouldn't be talking the way that I am today. And we make it seem like it's something that we can't dive into. And I find that really interesting because it actually is really simple. And I feel that a lot of men don't even realize that they're in their divine feminine, on a daily basis. And how is that? Okay. So a lot of men like doing projects and like making things and using stuff and tools and fixing things. Hey, guess what, fellas? You're in your divine feminine, just in another way, because you're being creative. So I hate to burst your bubble, but that's exactly what it is. So it's just like what we're talking about too. Is it it's just how you look at it. It's just how you look at it. And it's a simple thing of being in divine feminine too, is that if you are upset, if you're angry at work and you just need to talk to somebody and vent, you're in your divine feminine a little bit. You're using your voice, you're speaking it out. You're acknowledging, it's simply just acknowledging your feelings and acknowledging your emotions behind it. So there's just different ways to go about it. But like I was saying earlier, we get all scared of that word, and we think that just is like, oh, I don't know about that. But guess what? You're already doing it. And this is also to the the point is, what we don't realize is this is just natural order. It is natural order that we are in our divine feminine, we are in our divine masculine, and we have to balance those things out. And however we do that with the job we want, the spouse we want, anything that goes into it, at some point there needs to be a balance. And having an understanding of that is a really important thing to having just balance in your life. And I know for me, the more I've understood it and what goes into it, I know that there's times to turn it off, turn it on, balance it out, and I'm not perfect with it. You know, I need I need great teachers and mentors and friends like I need teachers and mentors like Brenda and friends like Nate to keep me in check with it. So I think that's a good summary of the divine masculine and divine feminine. And to jump back into, I think there was a little interference there with the microphones there, Brenda, is our question to you is we love what you're really saying about the poverty consciousness and how it took you a long time to really understand that and get out of it. But for you, because it works differently for everybody, what to you um, what to you really got you out of it? How did you start getting into that work? Because I know it just wasn't one thing that probably got you out of it, but what was the start of getting out of that for you?
I feel like in order to get out of poverty consciousness into prosperity consciousness, it has everything to do with self-worth, how we value or disvalue ourselves. When we disvalue ourselves, like Nate was saying, you can grow up. It's not an external thing. It's an internal mechanism of like what do we have anything of value? And it starts with number one. And if we don't start with number one, it doesn't matter what else is out there. We devalue everything else when we don't value ourselves. So when we begin to value ourselves, when we really work on value and self-worth and all of that, then we get into prosperity consciousness, where we then see that we are a valuable aspect to life, to what we say it, what we feel, how we express those feelings. We become more free and more, and that is what abundance is. It's like our free self starts to open up, and then there's just more than enough of us. There's more than enough learning and joy and happiness, because we're feeling better about ourselves. And that takes the small steps. It takes our partnership with other people. If you're hanging out with people that are completely putting you down, move into the direction of people that can really see your assets, your value, the places where they value, they see who you are before you see who you are. That's so important. That's where we really work with others. So that took me to really, I'll tell you a cute little story. I grew up, I mean, I'm not Catholic now, but I grew up in an all girl Catholic school. And it or it was actually a boarding school. The boys were on one section and the girls were in the other. And I would have to sneak through the dormitory to meet my brother in the middle of the night. And the nuns knew that we were doing that because we were just inseparable before we came there. But my mom put us in the boarding school because she couldn't afford. So the nuns took us in, and the boys were on one side of the building. I mean, way over on the other side of the building. And they played and the boys played with boys and girls played with girls. But in the middle of the night, we'd get out of bed and we'd sneak and we'd go down into the middle of the hall and we'd talk to each other. And the nuns knew we were doing that, but they knew that we needed to do that because we were just so brokenhearted and sick about being separated. And so, this place of, where we are able to, know our divine self. And so the nuns, everyone said, "Oh, you grew up in a boarding school? Oh, how sad. Are you kidding me?" It was like I hit utopia, because I remember one time I was in the bathroom, in the girls' bathroom, and I was crying, and because and a nun came in and she said, "Why are you crying, Brenda?" And I go, "Because I'm a midget." And they're calling me a midget. I'm a midget because I was really, really tiny, not having enough food growing up. I didn't really grow as much. I'm 5'1". That was my max, But I was a little tiny frail girl, and so the girls were laughing at me, and how kids do and whatever, and so they were calling me a midget, and so I'm a midget, and so the nun looked at me, and she said, "Just wait a minute, just." Wait right there for a minute. And she went out and she got another nun, and they came back and she says, "Well, what do you think, Sister Angela?" And Sister Angela, let me think. Yes, I think you're on the right track here, Sister Aileen. Let's do it. And so one grabbed me up by under my arms, and the other one grabbed my feet, and they started stretching me and pulling and both, and it just felt so good to be floating in their arms. And then they put me down. They go, "Well, what do you think?" And they looked and go, "I think she needs a little bit more." And so they stretched me again and stretched me again, and they put me down. They go, "Well, what do you think, Sister Ellie?" Yep, that did it. That did it. And I felt 100 feet tall. I felt like I had gained 3, 4 inches. And it was this whole place, that I walked out of that not feeling like I was small again, because it was in my mind. And I was loved and I was cared about. And, that didn't take any money at all, just time and love. And so those were the kind of riches I grew up with. I remember one time I was doing an exploratory process in a workshop, and they said to close your eyes and to look at the color that meant love. And I looked in and I could only see black. And I said, "What the hell? I love means black." And it haunted me I thought, you know, maybe I'm gothic, or, the kind of darkness. And love is black. And I'm trying to rack my brains. Well, but there's every color in black, blah, blah, blah. And, um, and then I realized a moment where I was underneath they wore habits, black habits back then, black robes, black habits. And I remember many times when I felt alone that they would take me under their arm and cover me up and hold me. And all I could see was black. And that
Mm.
meant love. And I got it. So it's these kinds of things that we begin to understand are not bad things that we think, but are good things that we're being led to. And that's where we go from poverty consciousness to prosperity consciousness when we see that we have had spirit with us every single step of the way, teaching us, growing us, learning, teaching us. There's nothing not enough about you. There's everything about abundance about you. And so that's kind of how my story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautifully said. That's perfect. Um, yeah, Nate, do you have anything you want to add with that? I'm still processing how amazing that of story that was.
Oh yeah, no, I was just getting chills.
Yeah,
I always love hearing stories uh, about how adults were. So I mean, like the nuns were being silly, right? And they picked you up and were stretching you, and they knew that they were not going to make you. I mean, like that maybe they made you like a millimeter taller, but they're just being silly with the child. And like adults tend to be so serious, and just in like breaking out of the kind of like the role of being an adult, that they're able to just like they'll literally make you feel that you're standing 9 feet tall. And I was just getting chills, as you were saying that story.
yeah. I love that too because it's the simple things that are the biggest things, and we always forget that, and that's how we need to look through life. And we get into these places where I don't want to go to work today. You know, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. But I always try to remind people, not everyone has a place to go to work today. Oh, I don't want to cook. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Not everyone has the opportunity to cook. So every little thing is a gift. And also people's interactions with everyone, that is the gift. We think, oh, I can't get where I want because I'm stuck in the job I'm at, right? But if we look at it through the lens that, there's probably people at that job that need me and they need to do what I'm doing. And maybe there's a customer that comes in that just needs a friendly conversation. And maybe that made their day. The littlest things like that go a long way. And I think that's what helps us stay out of poverty consciousness. I want to switch things over too, because I think it's important that we talk about it. And I think it's important for processes of how we can heal, how we can grow, how we can go deeper. And it's definitely something that's helped me not be so shy. And I think you know what I'm going to talk about with past life regressions. I would love to hear about, your summary of what past life regressions are, what they mean to you, why you love doing that work. And then too, I think we could also talk about a shamanic journey as well. But I think past life regression is a great way to start it. And if you had a chance just yet, please go back to the last episode, lesson 8. I talk about past lives, and I'm very fortunate and grateful to have a mentor and teacher like Brenda who's helped me along on those journeys. And it's one thing that I always say, that it's helped me not be reckless with the energy that I'm getting into with that. So Brenda is definitely that person to help out with it, with the experience that she's had, to help many, many people, not just me, go through those journeys. So Brenda, I'll give that back to you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's an important subject and very, very helpful for people who feel like, I just keep on getting in the same thing, the same kind of relationship, or I'm creating the same kind of problem at work, or I can't get past a certain issue in my life. And sometimes that has to do with a pattern that we bring in to learn. It's all life lessons. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to wait and not become a clinical a psychologist, because I didn't really believe in that place of I understand pathology serves a purpose, but I just didn't want to stand in that place where I pathologized um, uh, uh, psychosis or whatever. That wasn't my joy. My joy was the journey, more the call Jungian travel, that no matter where we are, we just show symptoms of certain things, and then we can outgrow them. We can outgrow, any kind of symptoms in our life, and those symptoms are there for a reason. It's there to teach us. And so what happens is when there's no growth, when there's stuckness, sometimes are really at that point looking or diving or trying to dive in or trying to look into that place of what life journey is all about, why we came here this lifetime to learn or to conquer, to finally move understanding into our consciousness with it. Maybe we've tried many lifetimes, and for those of you that only feel like you have one lifetime, then I'm going to say many moments. Okay, whether they are past moments of another lifetime or past moments of this lifetime, they are moments. And so what happens is, what past life regression is where one can go and stop the film and backtrack, because there is also future. There's regression life too. You can go into future life, but past life is where you can stop the film and go back far enough into your consciousness and your awareness, wherever that goes. And you know I've had, in fact, I'll put this in, I had one person that did past life regression and didn't really believe that there were other lives, and stopped right in the womb and had all kinds of experiences, listened to mom and dad having their conversations, and really learned what their lessons were for this lifetime, and was able to heal a lot of things. But other if if you want to see another lifetime, and you believe that there's possibility that we get more than just one chance here, I mean, there's a lot to learn, and it's a lot of pressure to learn it all in one lifetime. So let's say that spirit is gracious, and we get lots of opportunity to do stuff that we never, if we never got a chance to forgive this lifetime, I would sure hope that we would have another time, another opportunity to learn forgiveness. But so anyway, going back and checking out a lifetime that parallels to where a person is right now gives so much richness to, like, oh my gosh, that never healed there, or now I get a chance to heal that, or now I get to see how that lifetime influenced this lifetime, and why I do or say or I'm afraid, or I'm stuck right now. And when there's understanding, it brings a course of action to move through that and move into something else, change that merry-go-round cycle that sometimes we find ourselves in when we understand this. And so what I'm saying is that that parallel lifetime can say, this is what I need to learn now, because I didn't get to learn it then, or I missed all of the opportunity of that. Or maybe it's a lifetime where you were really powerful and really on track, and now you get to see yourself that way. So it's a benefit. And you see, once you get a lesson, there's a reward. I said that earlier. And when you know something, you cannot unknow it. It's in your consciousness. Even if you have dementia, it's in your consciousness. It's there. It's learned. It's a pat. It's like a thumbprint. Once you know something, you cannot unknow it. And so you knew things from other lifetimes. You can't unknow those. And when you remember them, then that's an amazing thing, because there's a reward. And that's a lesson learned. And then the reward is life starts to work again. Flow, energy, movement, growth starts to happen again. So I love past life. I love it. I'll share you my very first past life that I experienced before I even thought what a hypnotherapist did. And so I was just like, oh, I read a book about it, and I was kind of curious. So let's just try it. It was a fun thing to do, kind of like, okay, something new for Brenda's little tool belt. And so this woman took me into a past life, and I didn't have anything particular that I felt I was stuck on. I just wanted to see what past life was all about. So I found myself in this lifetime, in that lifetime, you know, horizontal, looking at the with my laying down with my head looking at the ground. And what I could see when I was laying flat on the ground was all these bodies, and they had uniforms on. And I thought, holy shit, I've been in a war zone here and it doesn't look like it turned out very well. And I think I'm on my way out. I'm laying down here and I think I'm dying. This is like my last moment of this lifetime. It was a great battle that went wrong. And so she asked me, where was I wounded? And I said, I think I've been shot in the head. Now, when, I said that, I didn't have like a terrifying experience. I just had an understanding that I've been shot in the head. She says, and I think my brains are behind me, laying behind me. And she said, well, now that you have a chance to heal that. So I'm going to ask you to put light into your hands. Picture light into your hands. And when you're ready, touch the back of your head and heal that wound. And I did. And the minute I did that, I was gone. I was done. That lifetime was over. I had taken my last breath. And I got up and I got out of that experience and I thought, what the hell was that? What happened there? Why did I go there? I have no idea why I experienced that. And she says, well, you just healed something important. And I said, okay, whatever. And so, it was quite a while, before I got understanding of that. One day I was driving in my car and I was in Santa Clara University and I thought to myself, man, I'm in Santa Clara University getting my graduate degree. Who would have thought I had the brains? And it rang through me that lifetime. Who would have thought I had the brains? All my life I thought I was stupid. All my life I thought I couldn't learn. All my life I thought I didn't have the brain capacity to learn shit. I'd stopped learning because I was embarrassed that, I was going to make a fool of myself, not knowing all of the facts. And that healed something in me that said, yeah, you go, girl. You do what you need to do. You learn what you need to learn. And I was on a voyage and I didn't even catch up with that understanding until that thought came in my brain and I saw that life and saw that light in the back of my head and thought, yeah, I've got the brains. But see, that's kind of how energetically we sometimes get stunted with this place like my brains are on the ground, and then we bring in, and we got a lot of learning to do, but we still, we haven't caught up with the idea that, we've got a mission here. And that perpetuated my growth. And I never even knew that at the time. So that's kind of what past lives do. And so, they're wonderful because the energetic body is more than just the flesh. It's all layers of who we are emotionally. I didn't have brains laying outside of my head, but emotionally I felt I was. There was emotion to that. When I healed that emotion, I got going. I got moving. So anyway, that's a past life, and it's a wonderful thing. And just even to like, you don't have to have any problems. Life can be going wonderfully, but there might be something that you're ready to leap into that you don't even know you're ready to leap into, and that's what past life helps you do.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's beautiful, and it just shows too that there's always healing that needs to be done. There's always work that needs to be done, even if we can't see it here, you know. And I think that's really important for the audience to understand. And I also just think that it just really, everyone just needs to understand, and we continue to say, you are special. Like, you have lived other past lives. You are special, and that is why you do have a purpose. You do have a purpose in this lifetime. I think this would be, actually, I should just ask too, Nate, do you have anything you want to say on that?
So just one thing. I like that story because like after it happened, it wasn't clear to you like why that happened or even what happened, but something still happened inside of you without you knowing it. And I love that as an example, as we don't know. We just don't know the deep workings of things, and we don't know what's going to come of what or how what's going to happen. And yeah, it's just, you know, that's so important to be open, to try new things, and to just like allow things to happen to us, because healing doesn't make sense, I don't think. I mean my experience has been that healing doesn't make sense logically.
Yeah. Yeah. I you know I'm glad you brought that up too, because I meant to talk about it earlier. Is that I think one of the most amazing parts of Brenda's story too that, you know, can make you think about your situation, whoever you are listening to this right now, is all of us are healers on some level. And even Brenda's story that, you know, she was a dental hygienist. She was a healer before she even knew she was a healer. So everyone that's out there too, especially, you know, you nurses, doctors, dental hygienists, all those people, you have a natural calling to healing. And, you know, not only do you have a natural calling to healing, but we all have the capabilities of being able to heal. We all have the capabilities to be able to go back, heal, do something. Whether that healing is just to be a mother, whether that healing is just to be a father and take care of, you know, your child, your kids. And if you have none of those things and you just have a lot of friends, we all are supposed to heal one another. And that's a big part of our purpose. And like we said earlier, I know we could talk forever and ever and ever. I think it's important that we touch on this really quick, though, on some level, and talk about shamanic journeying. I think, too, full disclosure here, we plan on doing a full episode just on this because it is a big subject. But, you know, you mentioned a little bit. I would love to hear about, you know, why it's important to you, how you got into it, what it is about. It sounds like, you know, to a lot of people, they don't exactly understand what that word is. And I would love to hear everything that you can summarize with it.
Okay, I'll try to wrap it all in sort of a condensed form because we could spend a whole episode on this. How I got into it, of course, was like, again, just like past life regression, becoming a hypnotherapist, all of that kind of stuff. Somebody told me about a class, and she's my co-teacher. She helps me teach classes on shamanic journey. Fran is just a marvelous woman that I have walked the journey of shamanism with since the day one, and we have supported one another in all of our journeys, and we have laughed, cried, everything together, and we're sisters, and spiritual sisters. And so she invited me to this class, and I thought, sure, she was actually a co-teacher when I taught hypnotherapy class. So I knew her and I trusted her and I loved, I mean, she had like, if anyone has any powerful energy, that she's the one, boy. She doesn't say hardly much at all when we're teaching together, but but everyone sort of leans forward and listens when Fran talks, because when she talks, she's got something really important to say. It just like, Ben and Nate, Fran,
Yeah.
boy, she's just sitting back, letting it all happen, and then she'll open her mouth and say something, and it's like we're all lean forward because she's so wise. She's so in touch. And so we taught hypnotherapy class together. She says, "Oh, let's take this class." I go, You're on, girl. So we travel up to Berkeley and we take this class, and we're sitting there, and I have no idea. And all of a sudden, people are drumming and putting eye covers on, and I'm thinking, "Holy shamoly, what did I get myself into?" But it was like freaking amazing. It was like I was experiencing parts of the places to journey into that were like magnificent. And I started learning what shamanism was and how shamanism worked in in the past to help their tribes to heal, to get answers from their spirit teachers, and how reverent that was. A shaman does not call himself or herself a shaman. I will never say I'm a shaman, okay, but I am a shamanic practitioner, because the tribe, the community has to call that person a shaman. They value that person as a shaman. I've been called a shaman, and that's okay. But when I speak of myself, I do not speak of myself as a shaman. I speak of myself as a shamanic practitioner, because that is an honor bestowed by the community. So when we go to our teachers, and that's where I had to walk the path of the shaman. I had to walk that path before I could learn it, and I realized after was taking all of these classes for years that I had already been walking that path, because I had decided to every day wake up in the morning and say, "Spirit, you got my back. You got my back now, Spirit. Whatever happens today, I acknowledge you have my back. Go right, go wrong, go sideways. You got my back, and I'm going to know that everything's on purpose, and I'm going to trust you. And then I started journeying, and then I started meeting my teachers in the higher realm, and I started meeting my teachers in the lower realm and the middle realm, and I started like, whoa. And this what really got my attention. I think it was like the first workshop, because after that I was hooked. There was about 12 of us, maybe 15 of us in a circle, all laying down with eye covers, and our leaders were drumming. And because the drum causes the brain to, it's a scientific fact that it causes the brain to turn off from its sort of mental chatter into the place where it opens up the imagination. And don't just ever say this is just my imagination. There is no just. Imagination is so freaking powerful. We don't have anything. There's nothing that we can touch, taste, feel in this material world, this form world, with that hasn't been created in the imagination first. Imagination sets everything into play. So, of course, shamans, they have such a reverency for the imagination, because the imagination brings them into the non-form world where everything gets created. So they believe in anyone who practices shamanic practice knows that our thoughts are powerful. And so where do we want to take our thoughts, because we're manifesting something. So we're very reverent to where we want to think and how we want to think. And so that keeps us in check. But when we deliberately journey, now we're going to a specific area, a specific way, a specific journey. And we get to meet these teachers, and we get to ask anything and trust that when we are told something, Spirit doesn't lie. When you ask with your heart and when you have strong intention, Spirit will never lie to you. That's why I know Spirit has my back all the time. But this particular time, we were doing this group thing, and the leaders were drumming, and we were getting into our journey mode, and moving into that imagination, moving into that upper realm, and having an experience, because they set us out on a journey to ask a question and find out, and then come back and talk about our experience. And I remember that there were about 12 or 15 of us. 3 of us in this group had the same vision, went to the same place, described it the same way, with the same teachers, dressed the same way, saying the same thing, came in, and it blew us apart. And it happened. So I believe, because Spirit had my back, it happened. I mean, if I were the only one in the room and it made any difference at all, it made a huge difference to me, because I've said, there's something going on here. I can't explain. And Spirit just proved to me that I should go take another class, and then another class, and then another class. This is my path. But see, that had to happen. So, did that happen for everyone? So we all, I don't care. This happened because Spirit had my back, and I witnessed something that was just like so freaking amazing. I couldn't put words to it. I couldn't explain it. How does everyone lay on the ground and have the same experience? 3 people out of that. So, you know, let's not, like, just because we can't taste it, touch it, feel it, smell it with our senses, think that it's just not important. Because what this form life is, the sensory life is an illusion. It's a limited experience. And when we go into the non-form, there are no boundaries. There, I mean, whatever you want. Spirit says it's like the genie in the bottle. Whatever you desire, create it. We'll create it together, and you'll learn to walk the walk with Spirit. And so, again, I said I was going to do this in a sort of a small, condensed way, but when you start
Yeah.
talking about shamanic practice, it's like, oh my gosh, I've like been so blessed by how I've been able to work the shamanic path with others, bringing back lost aspects of themselves. When we go into trauma, we we lose parts of us that stay away. They stay away. They don't want to be violated. They don't want to go through all the pain. And and ever so important, because when that individual has learned what they needed to learn through that pain and understanding, then that pure self comes back, and they both kind of meld in together and teach each other. One teaches the innocence, and the other one teaches the wisdom, and it's such a divine. I've done so retrievals where the whole face changes when they get back in back into reality, so to speak. And and they started to like play more, because it's usually younger age that they lose their soul, and it doesn't have to be a huge traumatic thing either. It could be like, you know, a scary thing. When I had a soul retrieval, Fran actually did it for me, and she said, "Yeah, I brought this little girl back, and she didn't want to come back because they actually bring them back and blow blow into the bean, and that's an experience in itself." But she met my little girl, and she said, "Well, Brenda has learned a lot of things. You're gonna really like this woman. She's fantastic. I've known her for years," and she had to kind of talk my little one in back because I wasn't going. And she said, "Well, what made you afraid?" Because she was terrified. Well, one day she was standing in front of the mirror, and she wanted to see her inside self. So she put her eyes wide open, and she came real close to the mirror, and then far back, and back to the mirror, and far back, and back to the mirror, and far back. And that scared me. I saw the depth of who I was through my eyes, and that scared her so bad that she flew, and I didn't have her for a long time. I know what play was. I didn't allow myself to play. So she got the story and she told her, she convinced her, Brenda's ready. She's probably really sorry she did that, whatever. Brought her back, blew her back in. Fran tells me the story, and I'm practically wetting myself because it's like, holy shit, I forgot I did that. I used to do that. And Fran didn't know. Fran did not have, I never told her that. I had even forgotten. But like when you don't have toys, you look in the mirror and you're an inner child, and you're trying to find out who you are, and you're looking inside. And and so I went. I felt so bad for that little one. I said, I am so sorry, sweetheart. I didn't mean to scare you. You know. So we've been finding each other for years. I've been teaching her what she missed. She's been teaching me what she's held on to in that place that felt safe, that was able to take care of herself and play. And was such a great reunion. So that's just parts of shamanism that is so vital for us now in this world. Right now in this world, we need all our parts. We need everything. It's like, let's not just go out. It's like going out half dressed. You want to walk out without your pants and your underwear, well, you're going to get arrested, and there's this parts of us that we need because we're going to fall short somehow. We're going to be judged. We're going to judge ourselves. It's not about the world judging us. It's about all the judgment we have for ourselves. When we're whole and we're united and we feel full and complete inside, we're powerful. There's nothing that we can't do in this world. So anyway, that's a little piece of shamanic work, and I know that you and Ben and Nate, you can both probably talk on hours about your journey, and I hope that you do share your stories with your audience because it's just flippin' amazing. And we need to really see our whole self, the part that we see in the mirror and the part that doesn't show up except in our own mind when we check in and close our eyes and feel our heartbeat and check into our breath. And that part is a powerful part. And that's why meditation and contemplation and taking a walk in nature is also important because we're getting in touch with that part.
Yes, and that was a beautiful piece to share with it. And I think the best way I'll summarize shamanic journeying is that we talk about this on this podcast a lot. Is we've just gotten into all these things is because we like going deeper, and you go deeper into meditation, and you go really deep when you go into shamanic journeying, and you see all these amazing things. And I want to touch on one thing because I think it's a cool story that could help the audience understand that there are no limits. And as Brenda started teaching me this about I think it was my third journey or so, I got into this place where like I really realized like, you know, I can do anything here. I can do anything I want to do here. There are no limits. And I remember, you know, because you start in this like launching pad area, you know, imagine it being a big cliff, and there was like a mountain in the distance away, and I remember just looking out and saying, let's just do it. And I remember just jumping across to that mountain, and I remember waking up and telling, you know, Nate about it, and just both us both being like, wow. And it really just turns into, you know, the best way to say it is it really is just the Matrix. It just turns into the Matrix, and there is a little bit of truth to the Matrix. I won't go too deep into that today. Um,
I wanted to say one thing to what you were sharing, Ben, and that is, there's a metaphor in all that we experience in that place as well. It's not just that experience, but what did it feel like when you leaped? Well, now you get back to ordinary, because there's ordinary reality and non ordinary reality, ordinary reality being ordinary, the form, and non ordinary being extraordinary, the non form. But you had an experience in that non ordinary reality that brought you back into your ordinary reality. Where did you then feel like you could leap? Metaphorically, you knew that feeling of freedom, you knew that feeling of adventure, you knew that feeling of I can do anything. Well, maybe we can't experience that in the ordinary form, but we experience it in the non-ordinary form, and then we bring it back into our life and we go, hell yes, I'm leaping, because that felt good. That was like amazing. I was amazing there, and that's what I wanted to kind of share with you, your experience there.
Yeah, I think that is great to say. I'm glad that you added onto that, because that's an important thing to understand when it comes to poverty consciousness, when it comes to all these things. It's in our minds. It's in our minds. What we can accomplish, our goals, everything. And I remember having that experience, and yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go jump off any cliffs, but am I going to go for things a little bit more seriously? Am I going to take an extra class? Am I going to try something new? You betcha. I've been trying way more new stuff. The more I journey, the more I go into it. And with that being said too, Nate, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so what you're saying there about freedom, like the freedom that we tend to perceive as being like something that's dictated by the external. So it's like, a lot of people are not feeling free these days, especially because, I mean, our movements are actually limited, and we're not in like prison, but for a lot of people, it kind of feels that way. But freedom is on the inside. And I mean, there's only true freedom. I mean, there are people who are incredibly rich and famous. They have everything money can buy, and they've committed suicide. So that just goes to show that freedom is an internal state. And then, our imagination has been totally devalued, over the years. I don't know when it started, but when you were a kid, you had a great imagination. And so we're always using our imagination. So you can't not use your imagination, I don't think. And so we tend to let our imagination use us in like the non-helpful ways, right? And we cook up like all these situations that are like the worst case scenario, or things that we don't want to happen. And then like the effect that it has on your life and your emotional state and your body, it like, th- that pulls you in that direction. So something like this, like, I've the past couple of years, I really, really consistently got into all kinds of visualization and shamanic journeying, and just at the most basic level, it's been really, really fun to use my imagination in a positive way and deliberately. But then outside of that, it's really, really helped me to like take life less seriously, and to go for that proverbial leap, and to, to, to see things differently. Because I mean, like, we learn a lot of things like, through analogies or through like different depictions. So we're very creative. So like, even though Ben's not jumping off any cliffs, that he's taking huge jumps in his life, right? It's just like, what that story represents. And so I think it's just like so fun. It also shows you just like what you're connected to, because if you go on a shamanic journey or if you do a visualization, you're not creating every single little detail in this thing. No way. Like, there's something that's coming to you because you're opening up to like this greater power that Brenda showed, that we're all connected with, and that like the, the the really cool story, of her and the other two people having that like same exact experience. There's something else that's coming to us and like, putting in the pieces of the puzzle. And it's just, yeah, super, super fun.
Yeah, and that's what spirit is. It is fun.
Yeah.
Is light. It is lightness. We make it complicated, us human beings. We complicate the shit out of life. Everything's so serious. So, oh my gosh, everything's about worry, and that's that poverty consciousness we were talking about. We complicate things. Spirit is so simple. When I found my spirit animal, uh, uh, my spirit animal guide was Red Fox, and I love Red Fox. I didn't like Red Fox when he first showed up, because here he was. I was asking this very important question. I only had 10 minutes. Drum was beating. I better get my answer and get out, and spent like 8 minutes out of the time on its back, rolling around, kicking its feet up, holding its tummy, laughing. And I'm like asking a question, and I'm saying, and then I got it. It's like, oh, it's not a serious thing here. This this is fun. And so he always reminds me, let's not take it so serious here. This is fun, spirit's light. And so that's where we bring the lightness into our life, and learning and sharing and being and growing is fun. It's light. So the only thing that I really wanted to say more about shamanic teachings and how to learn how to do journeying is that you really do need a teacher and a guide for that, to in the ordinary realm, because if you sit down and journey, you can do that on your own, but there's so much going on that if you don't have that ability to talk it about, what was that about? Got lost to there. I'm getting stuck. I don't know what I saw. What am I supposed to? And there's a special way to journey. There's a path of journeying, and so it's really and you can take a class virtually. I do journeying and drumming and with shamanic teaching all the time. You can there's great teachers that you can find a teacher in your area. You can also contact me, but if you're in a different area and you want to go in your area virtually, or physically, now some places are opening up in small groups if they're doing distant, social distancing. But you can go to the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, and they have shamanic teachers. I'm not part of that because I'm like so freaking busy. So I haven't put my name in there on purpose. But they have actually, and because also I haven't taken all of the classworks to be able to teach it in a way that would be of that learning. I can teach it in smaller groups, what I've learned. So there's a tier up. But these teachers are like worldwide, and you can go and you can learn how to journey with others virtually now. And so if you just go there, you plug in where you're at, and they'll hook you onto a teacher that can do a coursework like basic journeying, how someone who's never journeyed before, to advance skills. So yeah, to have somebody lead you there, you learn a lot of important things in life by people that have already done it. And that's from anywhere between sometimes riding a bike, you know, to shamanic journeying, to, whatever apprentice thing that you learn. I had to learn from many teachers how to become a dental hygienist. I had, so bring the people that have already done this, that have the skills to move you through. It's same thing with past life regression. Go with people that can guide you through it, and answer those questions or help you through the hard parts. You don't do this kind of self discovery by yourself, and certainly you don't have to use, you know, um, COVID social distancing and as an excuse, because it can be done virtually as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we will add in, so under the bio or somewhere in there, we will have all of Brenda's contact information for you to be able to reach out to her. I would highly recommend contacting her because she is absolutely amazing and will take you on journeys you couldn't even imagine. And I think a great place to wrap up, Brenda, because we were talking about this the other day a little bit, and I think it goes back to that divine feminine and a divine masculine, and going into kind of how I think it's important to understand, that where we're at, this state of the world, is not necessarily as bad as everyone is imagining right now. And I think this is a great place to end in the fact of, my belief from the moment this happened is, oh, we're getting ready to step into a golden age. That's what I've intuitively thought from the moment things started happening, unfolding, how I've started seeing everything. And that's kind of what we were talking about the other day too, just me and you personally. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on how you see things of the state of the world, of, and also to add into that, the reason why we talk about the divine masculine and divine feminine so much is because it shows that there has been a lack of balance naturally in this planet, in the state that we're living in. And with that being said, I would love to give back to you of how you see things, how you see us stepping into this new world, stepping into this new age, and what your thoughts are on that. And also too, I think that's also part of the new work that you're stepping into as well.
Well, we learn our divineness through honoring ourselves and others. We cannot just honor ourselves and judge others. We cannot forgive others if we don't forgive ourselves. So it's this the duality, and that all takes a divine nature. But how that works basically in sort of a smaller platform is to see how everything is purposeful, and even the hard stuff is moving and gearing us to become an an evolutionary climb to become more. I'm not going to say better. There is no better or worse. It's just more understanding, more growth, more fun, more play, more beauty, more clean water, more everything. So that's where we're going. And it sometimes takes the hard part. And what I'm going to say about that is we're looking at a lot of the hard parts right now because that has to show up. That gets people's attention. When everything's nice and we can tiptoe through the daisies and all that, that's later on. But we got to wake up first. And so this is a wake up call for a lot of people. We're beginning to talk and say things that we never had thought it was important, or were too afraid. We'd whisper it in people's ears, or to go in the closet and talk about it. And now, everything, we can talk about anything, transgender, our sexuality, whatever that is. And I see all of us as heroes. All of us are heroes in our life. We're doing something that's just heroic because it's adding to the collective consciousness. And when it adds to a collective consciousness, that's what breaks the mold. That's what changes evolution. That's what we see different. And I'm in California, and there's been a lot of fires, and there's been a lot of times where I say, "Why, Spirit? Why?" And then Spirit reminds me, these are heroes. You know, Nobody comes into this world and says, "Oh yeah, I'll sign up for that one. I'll lose all of my belongings, everything. I'll do it." They don't consciously do that, but on an etherical level and a soul level, they're heroes to me. Somewhere along the line, and they have contracted to do that, and they followed through on it. They didn't decide to leave this planet. They decided to move through a really hard time. So if you guys are having hard times in any way, shape, or form, you see yourself as a hero because you're adding to the collective consciousness. And what I mean by that is the fires. I have a story. I know someone who's in the past we've been friends, and they lost their only son. He lost his life, and as I think an early adolescent, or late adolescent, I should say, and there was the only son, and they put all their blood, sweat, and tears into their home. I mean, literal blood, sweat, and tears. They put all of their energy, all of their mourning, all of their loss, um, their grieving into their home for years. And they were part of the fire that was consumed, and it was down to ashes. They didn't have anything left. And I'm saying, who does that? who signs up for that one? Who signs up to lose everything? Everything. And I'm going to say a hero, because what they're doing, anybody who's had major loss like that, what they're doing is they're letting go. They're letting go. They're letting go of everything. And what happens when we can even let go of somebody who's hurt our feelings and we hold it on for years and years? That person hurt my feelings when I was little. Mommy, daddy, whoever, teacher, whoever, ex-wife, whoever. And they can even let go of a hurt. Unforgiveness kills us. Not being able to forgive kills us. And so they are doing work for the people that cannot forgive. They're letting go for those people that can't let go. And I say to myself, never again will I hold onto a grudge or hold on to anything that poisons my system, because people have had to make huge sacrifices for me. And I'm in turn going to make huge sacrifices for them by being the best I can. And so that's what we're seeing these days. We're seeing people step into their heroism, moving into hard stuff. Thank you, all of you, for me, for us, for this species, for mankind, for animal kind, for plant kind, for all the energies of spirit. Thank you. And that's what I see is happening today.
Yes, yes, beautifully said. Um, we are going to start wrapping it up right now. I will give it back to you, Nate, of anything you may want to add, and then we'll do some final thoughts from you, Brenda.
I just love what you said there. Um, I love I love hearing you talk about the world at large, and like all of humankind, and just like the whole living system together. And yeah, when you heal yourself, you heal somebody else, and remember that is also that there are other people healing themselves, and then you're being healed also. So just that like unavoidable interconnection that is always happening. So, so thank you every time for reminding me about that. Is there any
Definitely.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you'd like to add, Brenda?
Yes, I just want to again honor the both of you, because not just asking me to be on this very very important program that you do, because you're reaching others that need to hear what they are hearing in your podcasts every time you get on. It's just such an important event, and you are doing, both of you are doing the work of many, and I honor you both. I'm going to try not to get teary here, but I can't help it when I think about having had the honor of knowing both of you and watching you grow and seeing what you're doing now and stepping into your strengths and your skills and your talents and your gifts. And I couldn't be more proud of you. Uh, I'm going to adopt you as my sons because I just have to. And so uh, keep reaching the men, keep reaching the audience, whoever they are, because who you are in your pure, loving, wonderful selves touches us, touches me. And I just feel so very, very honored and grateful to be part of who you are in my life, as well as what you're doing in this program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
thank you
we
very
are
much, Brenda.
Yeah, and we are truly very grateful for you. And I honestly, before this started, I was doing a meditation, and I got a little teary eye myself, and I thought to myself, it is so perfect that Brenda is going to be our first guest, and many more guests to come, many more experiences. Brenda will be on again many more times, and I want to wrap this up, and then Nate, I'll actually take us out today and do a little meditation, but I want to wrap this up by saying, don't actually go jump off cliffs, but take a leap. Okay? Take a leap. Do something different. You have a big, beautiful purpose, and don't let the external circumstances dictate what you are going to go do today. Go try new things. Go take a new class. You could take a new class right now anywhere in the world. You could take a class in Paris virtually because there's stuff that you can do. You could take a class in Italy. You could take a class in California if you're living there. Anywhere you can do something different, new. Don't waste it. Don't waste this time. It is a magical time. It is a sad time, but there's many, many new amazing blessings that are waiting for you just to try and just to do.
And maybe do something even more crazy than jump off a cliff today. Forgive somebody.
Mm,
Yes.
yes.
And
Yes. Well said.
never, well said, and never, never forget, start by forgiving yourself first.
Mm.
Do that first today. So with that being said, let's check out. Thank you again, Brenda. And
Yeah.
Sure.
let's have a wonderful journey of a little meditation right now. So just start by taking a few deep breaths at your own pace, at your own time, whatever feels best to you. And just remember that we are here for a purpose, and search those feelings. Search what comes to you. Do whatever it is that you want to do. And we may hear that chitter chatter in our brain of, oh, I have to do this today. I have to take care of my kids. I have to go to work. I have to do everything else. Just set that aside and focus by focusing on your heart and what speaks to you and what speaks to you through your heart. And I think one thing that the heart always tells us to do is just slow down, just breathe, just let go. And as we continue to let go, as we continue to let things get quieter, softer, we continue to go deeper. And it's always important to go into that deep energy. It grounds us. It keeps our feet on the ground. It keeps us strong. And we can't forget that of how strong we are inside of us. And what may seem impossible, what may seem too hard, is just a thought. And it's our job to move through it. And feel that strength of your own energy. Feel that strength of all your teachers, all your mentors, all your friends, and all your angels, and all your past lives surrounding you, protecting you, and just being with you. At a moment's notice, they're always there. And take the time right now just to thank them and understand that they're there always with you, protecting you. And take a few deep breaths with them. Nice and slow. And as you come back up to this beautiful, amazing place, let's just remember that all of those teachers, all of those friends, mentors, they're always, always with you. And as we remember that, let's take one deep breath again. In and out. And slowly open our eyes. Don't forget to wiggle your toes a little bit, wiggle your arms, wiggle just because you want to, because it's fun. Dance. And thank you to everyone that joined us today. It was quite a journey. We love sharing this experience with you and serving you every single time we come out of this podcast. Thank you, Brenda, again.
Thank you so much, Brenda.
Sending you lots of love, sending everyone lots of love, and we hope you have a wonderful, amazing day today. Sending you lots of peace and love, everyone. Thank you.